Okay, I'm just getting it crispy.
Just getting it crispy.
All right.
Not too crisp.
But crispy enough to where there's a crunch.
For the imagine.
Okay.
That could be your thing. You could make a crunch sound and be like,
It's crunchy.
Mm-hmm. Peace, profound, and personal power. What's up, guys? I'm D-Mike here at Soul Ascension Estate. I'm just sitting here with some of the Soul Ascension family, and we were just doing some checking in, and we just got done with Retrograde, and I just wanted to kind of share some of the stuff that we've been going through, and I was just kind of checking in with them, so you can kind of get kind of a behind-the-scenes look of how we create the magic here at Soul Ascension. So I appreciate you guys coming and sitting and spending some time with me on this rainy day.
Yeah.
So we got yes, definitely. So we got Gordon Xavier. Yeah, I've got Brianna
Clark.
Katie Banks,
That's me.
and myself, D-Mike. So so like I was just saying, we just got done with this retrograde period. So what's been going on with you guys? Like, what came up? I mean, I know it's been a lot.
It was a big retrograde.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that pretty consistently. Did you guys feel like it was a big retrograde?
I wasn't aware of it.
Yeah,
Okay,
same.
we missed it completely.
I wasn't too engulfed in
for me
it.
then.
No, yeah, it was really big for me too. So what's some of the stuff that kind of gets reflected whenever retrograde and Mercury comes around? We know that it messes with our electronics, our communications, relationships.
Yeah, it does. Like, you can go into all the things that it messes with, but I think the real purpose, because there is a purpose behind Mercury in retrograde, which is to unearth things that need to be looked at within ourselves. So subconscious, unconscious things that normally we might be able to get away with not paying attention to. Well, that's why everything gets kind of messy during retrograde. It's actually supposed to be an opportunity for us to learn lessons, reveal things about ourselves. So
no, I really like that perspective, because I know whenever retrograde and Mercury comes around, we all want to just jump under the bed and just kind of hide out. But I really like that perspective, because you're talking about being able to utilize it to be able to take a look at some of the stuff that gets kind of covered up, that we kind of push down.
Okay, so I have something really interesting too, a perspective. So Brianna here and Gordon are kind of like, we didn't really notice so much. So we are all constantly working on our stuff. All of us who are part of this spiritual center, I would say, this group of friends, we are always working on our stuff. And like, Gordon, you just came from Sapato, which was, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, that was profound for me. And but now that I'm like hearing about what retrograde is and everything, I'm reflecting a little bit. I'm like, oh, okay, well, wait a minute, I think I might have had some stuff like that was dug up. And
right, so you processed a lot during that workshop.
Yeah.
And of course, Brianna, you're constantly processing. And David and I are too. But I think where you are in your processing journey will affect how retrograde hits you. Because if you've been dealing with a lot, you might not have a lot to unearth during that retrograde. And I have had smoother ones.
Well, it's interesting what you said of the things coming up, because I feel like I've had a greater awareness of unconscious thoughts and been able to observe them more and realize that there's a choice. Like, I'm choosing to think this way, where before it was subconscious and it just was kind of the programming that was going.
That's deep.
So.
That's deep. Yeah, I think that's real important. I think that's exactly the point of retrograde. We have these things that are kind of programs, and we just kind of let them run in the background. But I think that this retrograde, what it really does is it kind of brings that stuff up and it puts it in your face. So it's like you've been ignoring that for so long. It's like you're not going to ignore it anymore. And so it is an opportunity to be able to transmute it.
Another perspective I'm going to put out there is, we all come into this human existence with intentions and purpose and, things that we've planned that we want to do in this lifetime. And it's become clear to me, especially working with Brianna. Brianna and I do light transformations. And that is energy work, that we are energy practitioners, and Brianna does the hands-on part, and I do, I play singing bowls and I sing, so I do the sound and vibrational part. But what we are about is unconditional love, and I'm realizing that is a huge part of my purpose, is to realize unconditional love and spread that. And so I feel like that's what the retrograde was all about for me.
That's awesome.
And it was heavy hitting. Like, it's coming at me from all the places of my insecurities, because your ego then is on top of any place you have fear or insecurities trying to protect you, which are our behaviors, you know, our egoic behaviors that we display and that we use to protect ourselves. And so I feel like for me, it was really revealing where all my insecurities were that would keep me from fully expressing unconditional love. Because if you're in the ego, you're not in your heart space. They're two different things. It's the ego mind versus the heart, the unconditional love. The heart is connected to the universal source energy, which is unconditional love.
It's that unity principle. So that's awesome. Yeah, I know, Gordon, you were just saying that some stuff came up for you, you know, and even though you weren't necessarily even aware that it was retrograde, it still does its work, you know. Yeah. So what was some of the stuff that might have come up for you that you were thinking about?
For me, it was a lot of physical stuff, you know, a lot of stuff with the body. And you were asking about Savatov, and for me, so Savatov was like this spiritually based transformational seminar where it was all about communication with others and communication with the self.
Awesome.
And so in that 3-day experience from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 3 days in a row, there was a lot of learning about communication with others, but I think the breakthroughs really happened with that, but mainly with the self part, you know. And so for me, there was a lot of mindset, a lot of shadow, a lot of unconscious things that I thought that, you know, it was just in blind spots. And so I was able to uproot a lot of that stuff that was taking up space inside of me and keeping me from really stepping into who I am on the deepest level, you know. And so I was able to uproot a lot of that stuff, and I moved forward, you know, coming back home to Kansas City and getting back integrated into life. I moved forward into that really well. But now that you mentioned the retrograde, then all of a sudden things started like shifting all weird. I'm like, wait a minute, man, I just uprooted all this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I'm done with all
We're
these.
just never done.
I'm done with these negative emotions. And
So you thought.
I thought.
You're on to the next level.
But exactly. And so, you know, there was just more, you can always go deeper.
Yeah.
You know, it
We are
seems.
infinite beings,
Yeah.
aren't we?
that's I think that's the joke, you know. I was like, I'm like, cool, I'm found.
Yeah.
I found
I
myself.
think that's the key.
Yeah,
I
another
think
level.
that's awesome.
Nope, there's
because
another layer.
we know that there's always another level, but
Yeah.
it's about the journey though. And
Yeah.
I think that's whenever we're really able to align with our purpose and our higher selves, is whenever we're constantly searching for that next highest level of ourselves, but we are present and appreciative of what's going on, of
Definitely.
where we are right now. And I think that presence plus progress.
Yeah.
Celebrating our accomplishments.
Absolutely. And
And always striving for the expansion.
always strive for expansion.
You know,
for sure.
Eagerly.
David and I were having a text exchange where he said, I like to see that I am going through progress or something like that. And my response back was, I think if you're alive, you're progressing.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of how quickly.
Yeah.
And not
Yeah.
even that you have to go quickly, but just that mindset that no matter what, you are progressing. And, you know, we talk about the spiral. There's another way of looking at it too, which is like an ellipse, where you move forward and then you always have a time of regression, or, you know, you could call it integration too, where you feel like you go backwards, but you never go back to the starting point. It just kind of feels like you're going backwards, but then you move forward even further. And on the spiral, it looks like this. So like if this is the point, we'll just make this a reference point. you start here and then you come back and then you hit it again and you're like, oh, I went backwards because I'm here again. But actually, you hit it at a new level, and that's the spiral of it. So that mindset, that positive, high vibrational mindset that we are always doing well and acknowledging that is big.
It's like the new self is integrating with the old self, creating a new self.
I think so. I think it's the purposes. It has kind of two purposes. It goes back around because it shows you what else you've got, but also whenever you have that feeling like, oh, I'm back in the same spot, you can actually look back and see that you have made progress.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it puts you in that same kind of energy, in the same situation, but like you said, you're a little bit more elevated.
Right, but be conscious of that so that because we're so hard on ourselves. I mean, we need every opportunity to support ourselves and encourage ourselves, because that doesn't hold us back, that pushes us forward.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So David, what was the retrograde for you?
I'm the one asking the questions here.
Let's see what you got.
Yeah.
Are you blushing?
I mean, so maybe a little bit on the side, but you can't tell that. You can't tell that. But I think that this retrograde period, I think one of the key things that comes up during retrograde is a breakdown in sort of communication and in relationships. And I think that, but I like your wording better whenever you're talking about using it as it's more like a springboard, really. You know, it's not.
It can be.
It can be
You
if you're
can let
conscious
it
of it
knock
and
you
utilize
down.
it, right? For sure. And to be completely honest with you, I definitely succumbed to that a little bit. I kind of went unconscious for a time, and I think that was really purposeful as well, because like I said, it brought up some certain shadows that I knew were there, and I thought that I'd got a good hold on it. But then whenever I kind of revisited them, it was right there in my face again. And I think that it was really awesome because since we're on this journey, you know what I mean, and we know. So I let it get me for a second, but then it's like, no. You know, you're not going to stay there for very long.
Right, because
you know
aren't we on this path at this point where we are feeling good most of the time? And Abraham Hicks talks about this. The energy is moving so fast. And if you go with that stream of energy, because it's moving faster than it has before in our lifetimes. If you go with that energy, it's a pretty smooth ride. But the faster that stream is moving, when you hit something, you hit it harder. So
but it doesn't last as long.
So you fall off your vibration, and I think it doesn't last as long because we're not tolerating that anymore. We're like, that feels so bad.
Right.
And I know the day you're talking about, and I felt it too. I picked up, and it may have been, I was going through the same thing, or I picked up on yours. Oh, and this was interesting. I had to ask myself, am I picking up on his energy? Or is it mine? And I went, well, if I picked up on it and it brought me down a little, then it's for me too.
And if you guys want a little bit more on that, she just got done making a really great video on that, so be sure to check out that on the channel too.
What did I call it? It was...
embracing my vibration, or taking responsibility for my vibration.
Yeah. Yes,
so check that one out too, for sure. So,
so.
That's huge.
I want to expand. You said, and you would go to those old spots and it would feel so bad you couldn't be there very long and you leave out of it. For me also, it's been, I would go to those old places and I've been there before. I'm very familiar with this. I'm more conscious now, so I can choose something else quicker. You know what I mean? I can stop a pattern quicker. You know what I mean? Like,
we're more in our power.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the first step of that is recognizing the pattern.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you can't really change something whenever you're in it. Yeah. So it's the difference from being a pawn on the chessboard, zooming out and becoming the chess player. You know what I mean? And then of course,
which is what being conscious is.
Which is what being conscious is, because you're aware of that. You're aware of the pattern. You can see it. Whenever you're in it, everything is just kind of just right there. It's like whatever.
Victim versus creator.
Absolutely. And then even one step further than that, once you become the player, then you're gonna become the game designer.
Right.
You know what I mean? And realize your power even further, your godliness.
I mean, we talk about, Yeah, that's one of my big signature things that I say is we are God. I am you,
Just
you
sign
are
off.
me. Yes, we are love, we are God.
Yes.
Because we
That's awesome.
are. And I think that we are learning, we're getting so many opportunities to step more and more into our power and feel how good that feels, which is us vibrating higher, being more conscious, spending more time conscious than unconscious. And spreading that, like as we talk to each other and interact, because we are talking about, we need to record almost every conversation that we have.
Yeah. I don't let these guys talk anymore anywhere. Like, where's your microphone?
Seriously, we need mics on our because we're fascinating, because we're working and we're doing our work and we're staying conscious and we're reflecting beautifully off of each other. And I just appreciate you guys so much for that.
Yeah, definitely. We're stepping into new territory, and I really feel like we're blazing the trail. We're taking, I mean, the earth, there's so many cycles that are going on that it's like everything is coming together at this perfect culmination right now. I mean, this is an exciting space-time to be alive and to be on this earth.
We're moving closer to the sun. We're becoming more enlightened.
Yeah, we're becoming something that we've never been before.
Yeah.
And with that, we're having experiences that are unprecedented, and we're having to learn different ways to interact with ourself, and we're finding our power. I truly believe that our power is in having the courage to establish our relationships with one another, and then we activate that power by the amount and the type of empathy that we can infuse into those channels.
Because each other is ourself.
Reflections.
And, you know, we talk about, I've been listening to Eckhart Tolle, and I absolutely love how he talks about, if you're in a bad relationship, that is better than no relationship, unless you are just so highly conscious, which most of us aren't to that point yet, because of the reflection that it gives you.
Yeah.
And that is the whole purpose. And it's also the playground. You know, it can be painful, because we're in a relationship, and it's hard. It's really hard.
Tough.
But it's also really fun. Like, we can have a lot of fun with it. So, remembering to enjoy your life.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what you're talking about in how we use the relationship, you know, and it is better to be able to have that reflection, because I've been able to do so much growth because it reflects back to the blind spots that we were talking about. I always say mustard on the face, you know, I always use that example.
You can't see it yourself, but someone else can point it out.
It's too close. And so if you can have the humility to be able to take that information, and I think it's really important to have certain people that you trust, that you know are looking out for you, and you know are on that spiritual path, that are designated, that you know that can be able to give you that kind of feedback, because you don't want to listen to everybody's feedback. You know what I'm saying? I mean, everybody's got their
who resonates with you, and I mean, these guys totally resonate with me. Brianna is our roommate, and she and I constantly are talking about
my
this
thing.
Constantly. Yeah. I mean, if Gordon tells me I got mustard on my face, I'm gonna look in the mirror. If somebody else is walking down the street, I'm gonna be like, whatever, move on. So you know, I have the trust of people, and I think that we're really fortunate to be able to have this community that we formed here. You know, we really appreciate you guys for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man. Vice versa.
Yeah, definitely. So
It's special to have somebody in your presence that you know holds a specific kind of space for you.
Absolutely.
You know, and when they've demonstrated, and when you've experienced them holding that space for you, it's easy to trust. It's like, you know, if I say something, you know, it's coming from a place of like, I know you got nothing but love for me. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so it's like it's easy to receive, and you know, it's not a lot of ego battling.
Yeah.
Going back and forth.
Yeah,
Well, go ahead.
being in a space of unconditional love and acceptance, you really can blossom into your authentic self and learn to express yourself, which I've grown hugely.
Leaps and bounds from
Because it really
was.
it really is watching you, which is most of the people, and me included, and I fall into it all the time, but the victimhood state of mind versus the powerful, I am empowered, I am creating state of mind.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a great thing when you become more of a deliberate creator and you start creating in your life, you start to become aware of how you've unconsciously created, and you see the patterns and you can observe them in a way because there's a choice.
Right.
I think that's really big, that there is a choice. So first, being able to step back so that you can recognize it and then realizing that you can choose something else.
Yeah.
You know,
And
we're
you have that
powerful.
power. You
We have that power.
And you said humility, or to be humble, and I would say the counterpart to that is vulnerability.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you say, trust, it allows you to become vulnerable. And this was something I had to learn. So our solar plexus chakra is like our willpower.
Mhm.
And a lot of ours are overworked because we have been in a very masculine way of doing things, which is effort, willpower, which is ego. It's an egoic way. You have to use your mind. You have to think it through. And we're learning a more feminine balance of that. Because you need both. You need both. But yeah, it's connecting through the heart and connecting to universal energy. And I think that when we do that, we learn really where our power is. But we learn that it's actually in being vulnerable that allows... Because when you're vulnerable, when you are in effort and ego, your heart kind of does this, and everything kind of clenches up to make that effort. When you open your heart and relax everything, then the power of the universe can flow through you,
Right.
Yeah.
and you can be vulnerable and know that that is complete trust, and that you are supported.
Love that.
Yeah, with the efforting, like you really, you miss out on the perfection of what is and in the present now, because you're trying to create the circumstances or create something that you think needs to be, when in reality, if you could just look at your present moment, you'd see it's already there.
Wow.
It's power versus force.
Wow, but you've come so far.
I
You know,
our
and
angelic
just
beings.
definitely, and just kind of piggybacking on that about vulnerability, I have to talk a little bit about a science study that I just heard about, and it's basically they presented just real quick. They presented a phone conversation with a guy that was speaking, and then he got done with the conversation, and then they shared another recording to a different group where it was the same conversation, but at the end of it, he kind of dropped his phone. You know what I mean? He kind of like picked it up, and they said, "How much do you trust these people?" The guy that dropped his phone, they trusted him like twice as much.
Because he was human?
Because he was human, because he's vulnerable, because
Right.
it goes into what I was talking about, our powers and our connections and the empathy that we infuse into it. If I'm vulnerable to you, if I'm showing you that I'm a human, you're gonna relate to me so much more. And just try this in your lives. I mean, whenever you are just open and you're vulnerable, you just see people relate to you differently. People want to help you with your projects. They want to be there for you more
receptive.
more
And the
receptive
other way
to
of
it.
saying that is being your true authentic self.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Something that really resonates with that, the Sabato that we're talking about. So when I would get up to share, I would always say, when I might be talking about my experiences, I would go into, so I noticed that when you were more vulnerable, you would, you put your guard down and then you let like universal energy flow through. And he kept on saying, who? Who? I was like, yeah, well, when you be more vulnerable, like, who? I was like, oh, when I am more vulnerable, I'm able to put my guard down and I can let universal energy come through.
That's amazing.
And so I noticed that all my videos in the past, I would always be going, so you shouldn't judge people because you'd block out your ability to understand. Now I change it to like, instead now I share from a place of like, the reason I gave up judging is because it blocked my ability to be able to understand. And so that right there is, to me, a new way of being vulnerable. Because he was telling me, like, I was saying you to avoid being vulnerable and claiming and talking about my experience.
That way you can leave yourself out of it. You know,
Yeah.
You guys, I don't know what y'all doing over there. I'm good here.
So my mind is just going, but this is taking responsibility.
Yeah.
This is taking responsibility for your vibration, which is, I say it all the time, it's one of the hardest things that we do, and it's part of stepping out of being a victim, is saying any experience that's happening in my life, I am creating. There's a vibrational reflection, which means I have to hold that vibration in me somewhere for me to be experiencing this in my reality and having this occur in my life. And so taking that responsibility, making it all about I, and this is huge in my relationship with David or D-Mike here. Because in relationships, you want to blame the other person.
Yeah.
You want to be like, well, you're
doing this to me, obviously.
And we are constantly like, okay, take responsibility. You know, we want to slap each other. Take responsibility, because it's hard.
It takes us a second. We're like, okay, fine.
The thing is when, and it oftentimes we
empowering,
do have to do it later, but yes, you do it whenever you can do it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, I think so many
actually-
times, just to add on to that, I think so many times it's worked for us whenever we've been in it and we just been like, rah! And then sometimes whenever we go away for a little bit, I've noticed, and then we come back and it's like, hey, you know what, I had this new perspective, you know, and then we're able to work it out. We're able to
And
talk
then
through it and take
start to
responsibility.
You
Yeah.
start to do it a little faster.
Yeah.
So in the beginning, if it takes weeks
Yeah.
to figure that out,
Don't
that's
judge that.
fine.
Don't judge
Exactly.
that.
Like, even if you don't do it instantaneously and you have trouble doing it, that's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that's a part of the process, and be easy with yourself, because maybe like 1 out of 25 times you do it, you can focus on that one time that you did it
Right.
and forget about the other times.
It's all
Right.
about focus.
It really is.
Oh my gosh,
It really is.
there's so many things we're bringing up
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Each
Yeah.
one we could just go on for days.
Absolutely,
but-
and we could, and we will
This is why
on
we're
future videos. This is why we're
recording,
doing
because
this.
there's so much.
Yeah, there is so much. So yeah, definitely check back here often, because we're gonna be doing this. We have a lot of different people and a lot of different personalities with a lot of awesome, amazing insights. And I just think it's gonna be a really incredible thing whenever we just see all the different combinations of all the different personalities and experiences, and really put it together here and being able to glean out the little bits of value that we're gonna just flood this channel with. So yeah, really appreciate you guys showing up, and appreciate you guys here and creating with me, and
Love you
I'm
guys.
really excited about everything that we're going to be doing here. So just remember to always be reaching towards your best and happiest life, reach for your most audacious goals, and bridge the gap to the infinite. Ever ascending, for Soul Ascension, I'm D Mike. See you at the summit.
Peace.
All right.
Nice.
So the other thing I want to say is
Right before it died.